Corporal punishment is very stupid. Corporal punishment generally describes attempts by parents or other authority figures to discipline minors through physical abuse intended to create physical pain and suffering. To a sane person, this idea should immediately sound both archaic and idiotic. Unfortunately, many people are barely sane and they seem to think that this is a good idea. I have three main arguments supporting the idea that corporal punishment and most punitive justice is very dumb and something that society should not accept. Argument 1. Fear is not a good way of educating or disciplining children or anyone else. Corporal punishment is intended to promote fear in children and to use this fear to improve their behavior, whatever that could mean. Making children fear you is a very bad idea, as it will ultimately lead to them not trusting you and being able to hold close relationships with you. It will destroy your relationships with them. Corporal punishment may fill a child with so much fear that their capacity for social interaction could permanently be damaged. Their view of adults will permanently be scarred, as they will view them as abusive authority figures rather than people to look up to. It is respect that should be promoted, and fear and respect are very different things. How children are treated represents the base of society, as it is the childhood years that shape a person, and it is people that shape society. A society should not base itself off of fear and anger, but instead higher ideals, such as respect and compassion. Argument 2. Corporal punishment promotes the idea of violence to children and young people. Children look up to and learn from the made adult role models in their lives. If these role models openly exhibit violent behavior, this will communicate to the children that such behavior is normal and acceptable. This will inevitably lead to children growing up and acting violently themselves. This is, of course, a great way of ensuring the world becomes a worse, more violent place. Argument 3. Corporal punishment promotes the idea of violence to adults. As well as promoting violence to children, the idea of corporal punishment promotes to adults that violence is an acceptable thing. This will inevitably lead to adults being desensitized and more open towards the use and employment of violence and immoral force. If a society is to take a principled stance against unjust, retributive violence, it must start by abandoning the concept of corporal punishment. Adults should not feel like it's okay and acceptable for them to behave violently, particularly towards defenseless and innocent children. The promotion of violence by accepted corporal punishment in society has lethal consequences when people are desensitized and more willing to employ violence in other situations. Corporal punishment is simply child abuse and does harm to both children and society as a whole. Corporal punishment damages our standards of how we should behave and treat others. The primitive and barbaric violence of corporal punishment and any punitive justice measures is morally abhorrent and should not be accepted in a civilized society. It is time to do away with this idea. Society should view any who attempt to defend and justify it as the primitive and comical creatures that they are.